one of the things that's also covered in the chapter is talking about GCCs, where there's so much written about this, there's so much discussed about this in industry forums. Um, how have you experienced the value of that concept, the concept of a GCC, in your work, Tony?
Absolutely. I have to say that the concept of the GCC, for those of us that are located in and working in shared service centers, offshore centers, BPOs, I think this is, the most important construct that has come along in a long time within the GBS space. So the GCC is just to kind of level set ourselves, are an evolution of, what used to be transactional or business process factories, where they're now holding themselves accountable to do higher value added work, whether it is different type of work than just transaction processes, like for example, maybe even doing higher level design or research or development, or even in product innovation. That's one. But then even within the transactional organizations, not just doing operations, but innovation inside our typical processes of accounting and finance and HR and things like that. So that's really what's happening on GCC. Now, in my experience, there are a couple of things I want to say. Firstly, if you are coming at this, having been a shared service center and now trying to kind of move up the chain to a GCC, you really have to make sure that you got the foundations correct, that you have the credibility before you go in and pitch the idea that, hey, we're going to be doing all of this great stuff for you, right? So again, make sure you got the foundations right before you pitch. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't aspire to it, but there is a sequence to it. The second point I want to make is that, in my experience, and actually even recently, just over the past couple of weeks, having had a conversation with two GCCs in India, there is real power to managing by proposing to the headquarters. More often than not, the headquarters of these companies don't really completely even understand what is possible. And so, in a headquarter-centric world, to actually have somebody that understands the business and the value that an offshore outpost can generate is really important. And so don't shy away from making proposals. The worst thing that can happen is that people will say no the first three times, and then they will say, well, it may be worth trying something out. And so those are a couple of thoughts from my side.
Yeah, very good. And Ajay, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure, Tim. Let me add a couple of thoughts. So agree with everything Tony said. The way I define it, GCCs is beyond what Tony has already said. These are strategic hubs that are created to build specialized, knowledge-intensive, innovative capabilities. I've seen examples of this being done in areas like R&D for digital transformation, for analytics, as an example. And based on my own experience and having spoken to many of the peers, what we have seen is that GCCs have been very effective in driving measurable gains in a few areas. One is faster cycle times with innovation or time to insight, as an example. Two, driving digital transformations more effectively, where you see higher degree of AI and automation adoption within a corporation as a result of the GCC being focused on it. We've seen folks look at new sources of value where you're either using new decision support systems or new platform services that you're able to offer. Certainly a great way to think about building what I call future ready capabilities. And finally, I've also seen it playing a very promising role in building what I call a strategic talent pipeline. When you
Ah,
think about some of these areas where this is where you could have that incubation happening of some amazing leaders who can, be a part of what your strategic talent strategy is in the future.
yeah. That talent one is really good. And I would add one thing, which is um, setting. You can also set when your GCC has got the trust of the HQ, you can set it challenges and say, hey, you've got cross-functional teams here. What would you do with this problem? And you would be amazed, that the HQ will be amazed with the quality of the thinking and execution that comes out of it.